What if I told you that Cleopatra lived closer in time to the first moon landing than to the building of the Great Pyramids? Yes, the queen you always imagined standing proudly beside the pyramids was actually separated from them by more than 2,000 years. And yet, she lived less than 2,000 years before Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon. This shocking fact flips our sense of history upside down. Today, we'll journey through three milestones: the rise of the pyramids, Cleopatra's turbulent reign, and humanity's giant leap onto the lunar surface. By the end, you'll never see history in the same way again. Let's travel back to 2560 BC. On the Giza Plateau, tens of thousands of workers hauled limestone blocks weighing several tons each. Under the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, they completed the Great Pyramid, a structure so massive that it remained the tallest human-made monument for nearly 4,000 years. The construction wasn't just brute strength. It required advanced planning, mathematics, and an understanding of astronomy. The alignment of the Great Pyramid with the stars is so precise that even modern engineers marvel at it. But here's what blows our minds. By the time Cleopatra was born, this pyramid was already ancient, over 2,500 years old. Imagine it. For her, the pyramids were monuments from a civilization long gone, as distant from her as the fall of the Roman Empire is from us today. Now let's jump forward to 69 BC, when Cleopatra VII was born into the Ptolemaic dynasty. This dynasty wasn't Egyptian in origin, it was Greek. After Alexander the Great's empire fractured, one of his generals, Ptolemy, took Egypt. His descendants ruled for almost 300 years. Cleopatra was the last of them. Unlike many rulers, she wasn't just a figurehead. She spoke multiple languages, including Egyptian, Greek, and Latin. Ancient sources describe her as intelligent, charismatic, and politically ruthless. Her reign was marked by alliances with two of the most powerful men in Rome, Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. These relationships weren't just romantic. They were strategies for survival, as Rome's shadow loomed over Egypt. But remember, while Cleopatra navigated politics and war, the pyramids were already a tourist destination. Greek travelers wrote about visiting them, just as modern tourists do today. For Cleopatra, they weren't symbols of power being built in her time. They were ancient wonders she inherited. Now let's leap forward again, this time not just centuries, but millennia, to July 20th, 1969. The world was divided by the Cold War. The United States and the Soviet Union were locked in a race for supremacy, not only on Earth, but in space. In 1961, President John F. Kennedy promised that America would land a man on the moon before the decade was over. It was an audacious goal. 8 years later, Apollo 11 made it a reality. On that day, more than 600 million people watched live as Neil Armstrong descended the ladder and set foot on the lunar surface. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Here's the mind-bending part. Cleopatra died in 30 BC. Less than 2,000 years later, humans were walking on the moon. But more than 2,000 years separated her from the building of the Great Pyramid. She was closer in time to rockets and astronauts than to pyramid builders. Why does this fact feel so shocking? Because our minds compress history. We imagine ancient Egypt as one single block of time, stretching from the pyramids straight to Cleopatra. But the truth is far more complicated. Egyptian civilization lasted over 3,000 years. To put that in perspective, the time between Cleopatra and us is shorter than the time between the pyramids and Cleopatra. Think about it this way. The pyramids were older to Cleopatra than she is to us today. This single comparison bends our sense of time and shows us how vast human history really is. So next time you see a painting of Cleopatra beside the pyramids, remember, she belonged to a world closer to rockets, satellites, and astronauts than to pyramid builders. History isn't just a straight line, it's a vast ocean of time, full of surprises that challenge what we think we know. If this story changed the way you see history, subscribe to Echoes of the Past. Because the past still echoes, and those echoes can reshape the way we see our world today.